What's up, dudes? Welcome back to another episode of Rhomas Men's Team. Pretty simple. We are a group of guys helping each other make progress towards each other's goals. If you're new to the channel, awesome and welcome. If you want to help support the channel and join our pro team, head over to rhomasteam.com/pro, where you can contribute to us on a donation basis. We also give you access to exclusive content, mastermind groups, etc., etc. So anyway, hope you enjoy this episode, and we'll see you on the team.
You have a new piece of artwork behind you, I think, for every Rhomas meeting. You consider getting into the art business.
Oh, this is all green screen, dude. This is all like just fake backgrounds, right?
So we all can advance our I guess cultural capacity. How would you describe that art in the background? Like, if I'm walking around on a date or something, and you were on a date with me, you would look at that painting and say what, so I could learn?
So it's a painting.
Mm-hmm.
It is there. You can split painting into two categories if you want to, broad categories: representational and abstract or abstraction. Right.
Okay.
So representational is like more or less accurately representing the real world. Mm-hmm. A landscape painting, a portrait, a city skyline.
Yep.
Whereas here, or here, or here, it's abstraction. It's just colors on. It's just colors on. Colored paint on canvas. And so. So abstraction. So think of Jackson Pollock, just like the kind of sprinkles and like splatters on the painting, on the surface. So that's what we're looking at. We're in my new gallery space here.
Awesome.
As you guys can see, it really looks like a proper gallery. It's in this old kind of industrial building.
Hell yeah.
And,
dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. It's really great. I'm really blessed. And Muna Malik is an outstanding artist, LA based. Thank you, Lucas. And this is her first show in Toronto, first solo show ever. Solo show is one artist, like 10 paintings, 12 paintings, however many. Group exhibition is multiple artists, each with like typically one artwork. So this is her first solo show. And in this body of work, she visited Australia, visited Iceland, and visited Antarctica in the last year. And in those places, she saw the elements of life, or the life battling to survive in environments that are so hostile that it's most unlikely to thrive, right? So that's why she has colors you don't typically see together, yellow and red. And then mediums you don't typically see together, like acrylic paint and oil paint. And that's why there's all this movement, because it's like the elements of life, like up against fire or water.
Oh, that's super cool.
Great stuff.
Now when you walk a potential client through the gallery, and you pull up to a painting like this, do you tell the story of the artist, and is it for the buyer to adopt the story, or is it for the buyer to create their own story relative to the art, or both?
I mean, you got to read your clients just like you do in your business. And I think that the best way to describe it is to use terms that are universal. So like whether they're Christian, Buddhist, atheist, right wing, left wing, they can like superimpose their hopes and dreams or tastes or what they like on top, right? So, for example, with this one here, I would tell them what I see, So when I would tell them something like, when I see this, I see the night sky. Right, because you see these little stars here, or little dots. And then up here, I see kind of like organic tree branches or roots trying to grow. And somebody else yesterday said they saw this as underwater with like a kind of a riot of fish kind of swimming around. So I just tell them what I see, right? And it kind of, in a way that encourages them to kind of like share their own thoughts on what they see.
Yeah, no,
because there's no right answer.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I wasn't into art at all, like literally zero, until Jordan Peterson started talking about, mythology and stories, and then he basically like said, okay, look at this particular painting, and here's why it's famous, and here's the story that it tells. So I was like, oh, okay, it's an efficient way of packaging a story and perhaps reminding myself about that story every time I see it, which I think is, for me, gets me interested in art.
Yeah, that's interesting, right? Like, I remember talking about Greek, like the ancient Greece and the way they used to write. So the writings of Homer and Plato, for example, it's just, and the language my friend used it's just so economical. Like every sentence has a universe packed into it, right? Because like this is like maybe a 75-page book kind of thing that has been passed down for thousands of years. And it's because like each sentence is like a universe, right? So, I don't know that, I don't remember the specific Jordan Peterson talk you're talking about, but I presume it's something like that, right? Where without it even saying a word, the right painting can tell like a whole lifetime worth of stories.
Oh yeah, well, and especially when you get his narrative around it and saying, oh, well, this is the Mother Mary, and this is why she's bent over this way, and this is why she's extending her arm this way. It's like, wow, that is phenomenal. That's really interesting. And I love the idea that you're saying of being economical. And I think I love what Jordan Peterson says in terms of writing is thinking. And for us men out there who don't write, and I'm guilty of this too, like I should write way more than I do. Man, writing, forcing yourself to write is with intention, advances thinking exponentially. Like I challenge anybody to go out there and write for 10 minutes and try to pick a topic. First of all, writing without any topic is also a phenomenal exercise as well. Just write stream of consciousness. Another thing is to write and trying to clarify a point. And man, that exercise, do it for 10 minutes and you'll find out like how infinitely dumb you are as well as how infinitely smart you are and could be. It's this weird experience, man. And then going through and trying to find those economical words like you're referring to. Okay, I just explained this in 15 words. How can I explain it in 2? And that journey is just a phenomenal journey.
Yeah, that's what I love about the journaling. That's why I love that journaling is in the scorecard, because if something resonates with you in a YouTube video or a conversation or a podcast or a book, just committing to writing down a couple of sentences about it. Crystallizes the idea in your head, or, reinforces the commitment of the idea to you, that it's important to you. Oh yeah,
absolutely. So thanks for sharing that painting stuff, man. That's awesome.
My pleasure. My great pleasure, Wes. Some of them are still available, FYI. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I was actually thinking about that too. So when an artist gives you their art, I mean, that's a big deal, because essentially I assume they are taking it out. They're taking it from potential other locations, obviously. And they're allowing you to sell it there. Now, can they still sell it outside of your gallery, or is it some sort of exclusive? It has to go through you, or is that etiquette?
It is a lot of etiquette and trust. Some people commit it to a contract, and we have consignment agreements, between artist and gallery. But it really relies on trust, just like the best relationships do. And in certain cases, a gallery has exclusive rights over anything the artist produces, but that's less and less true now because of the internet and people from Japan being able to discover an artist in California or LA or Germany or wherever, or Canada. And so a more and more common arrangement is the artist gives me a package of 12 paintings for this show, and I have exclusivity over these paintings for the duration of the show, rather than a geographic exclusivity zone or distribution zone or anything. It's just for the duration of the show, I'm the only one who can sell these. And so if someone comes across an Instagram post or something and goes directly to the artist would refer them to me.
Got it.
For the duration of my show.
Awesome. Yeah, man, that's cool. This is a whole nother world to me. I do not know about. So thank you for teaching. So let's hop into the book if you're okay with that.
Yeah, man.
The book that Kaizen recommended called Levels of Energy. We're now on our second conversation. And I just got through, I think, chapter 3. I don't know what chapter you're on. But a couple key topics there that we can riff off of. Finding joy and peace independent of external things.
100%. So, yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So
well-being is the starting point, not the goal. Right. Yeah, and for some reason, the silly example that stuck out to me is you can find joy in the coffee, or you can seek to get joy from the coffee, or you can already have joy, and therefore you will enjoy the coffee more when you have it. Mm-hmm. Something like that. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was interesting. Yeah, he gives a bunch of examples. How unconsciously we let these things control us. You know, like I'm not fully awake until I drink coffee. You know, that kind of mentality. And it's natural to feel that way. I mean, that's how we train our bodies to feel. Another relatable example, and I'll just read it right from the book. If you come to an ATM machine and your emotional state changes from okay to worse, I guess because of when you look at your balance, right? Like It's rare. It's rare that you look at your balance and you're like, well done, right? That indicates that the ATM machine is controlling you, which is a far cry from you controlling it and the money inside it. Mm-hmm. So do you want to be controlled by a machine? Do you have money, or does your money have you? And so that I can think, so well-being is the starting point, not the goal. To translate that into what you just said, it's like, we have to be careful not to only permit ourselves to feel well-being once we have that coffee, right? Or only permit ourselves to feel blessed once that bank balance reaches a certain amount.
Yeah, exactly. And what Kaizen is saying in the chat here is, he says, damn, super deep. Do you have money, or does money have you? Completely agree. And you can insert whatever other object in there, and it would be the same mental exercise. And this is for sure something I struggle with 100%, whether it be with money or whether it be with whatever, physical fitness or any of the above, anything that I do all day. It's, do I have those things, or do those things have me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I remember I used to take care of an old lady a couple of years ago now who didn't have any kids, and all her friends had died. She was in her 90s. And she said once, she would give a homeless guy a couple of bucks. Whether she did or she was or she did it once and it was part of the story she tells, I don't know.
Yeah.
But she said, and I said something like, oh, well, they just buy drugs or alcohol with that money. And she said, it's okay. They're allowed to be happy too. Or she might have said, they're allowed to be happy too. Right? Because we were going off to dinner where we were going to eat and drink some wine. And I was saying I'm not going to, you shouldn't give this guy money because he's just going to buy alcohol rather than the necessities of life. Mm-hmm. But he's allowed to be happy too. And so that's what I sometimes tell myself. Or if I'm in an argument with Sarah, I'll just kind of turn my head and whisper, I'm allowed to be happy too. Because an argument we used to get into was I didn't have a job for a long time. I mean, years before I could. It was a period of years where my employment was lumpy, and I didn't know what my calling was, right? And I would try a job, I'd get fired. I would try a job, I'd get fired. And at the Hoffman process, this meditation retreat I talk about once in a while, I explained that not having a job was my biggest insecurity, and when people ask, what do you do? I used to be terrified of asking and come up with some joke or something to distract the conversation. And Sarah and I used to get in fights where if I was watching TV, she would say something like, you should be like sending out resumes online.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
She's right. She's right. I mean, it may have been days, weeks, or months since I had sent one out. But the people at the Hoffman process also said, you're allowed to be happy, right? So even though because the unemployment caused me great shame, right?
Right.
I'm so obsessed with labels. I've talked about this before. He's rich, he's poor, he's black, she's a woman. I'm going around threat labeling the whole time, right? Mm-hmm. And so this person at the Hoffman process indicated that, even though I don't have a job, I'm allowed to be happy.
Right.
And I'm sorry to hog the microphone like that, but that all kind of just came back to me in a rush of memories.
Yeah,
I want
to dig through that if that's okay. How was that process for you? How was it going through as a man and going through this period of, I don't know if you would call it stagnation or volatility or that
frustration?
Process. Yeah. How was that? And if you could describe how it probably was for.
Hey dudes, sorry for the interruption here. Just wanted to let you know, if you want to join our pro team, go to romasteam.com/pro. You can help support the channel. You will also get access to exclusive content, masterminds, one-on-one sessions, etc. All right, back to the episode too.
Well, we were living in New York, where we had an expensive apartment and hanging out with all these either successful people or purposely placing ourselves within a group of successful people or people who were born into wealth. And so it was a hamster wheel. It was like trying to keep up with people for the wrong reasons. I just had that experience again yesterday where I went to an art party at a museum from 8 till midnight. And when I got there, I realized that there was a black tie dinner from 6 till 8 that I didn't know about, that I typically have gone to in the past, but I forgot or something. And I had this moment of FOMO where there's the people I want to be in the room with all in black tie. And then I'm here with the kind of the peasants, which is not at all the case. But I mean, that was how I, for a moment, felt like it, right? And then I fell into this kind of I found myself back on that hamster wheel for a moment,
Right.
But then my assistant reminded me today that I had a nice dinner with Sarah at a restaurant, kind of date night thing. My mom babysat. And there was probably a better meal than the kind of gala rubber chicken dinner, that most of these things have. And so so I kind of fell back into that feeling of being on the hamster wheel, trying to keep up with people, trying to define myself by status, trying to find my rank, my status rank amongst all my peers, and but I'm good enough and I'm allowed to be happy. And I'm I said to one very rich woman, she's I've seen her at the tennis club a bunch of times. She's oh, you're in the art world? And I'm yeah, I run the art world in Toronto. I run this, all this, you see, I run this thing. And she laughed and I laughed and she said, own it, Ray. And I tried to roll back that kind of brag. Yeah. And then she said, no, Ray, you own that. I'm fuck yeah. So being a man and being unemployed fucks with your head. And I know you don't I know you're trying to avoid cursing right now, but it messes with your head, as you can imagine.
Oh yeah.
Especially someone like you who's been working full time since he was 8 years old or whatever, being the way you are, it's It is, if it's how you define yourself and then you don't do it for long periods of time, you know, you're gonna mess with that. Like a teacher who's banned from teaching, or like, you know what I mean? Or like a baseball, like an athlete who's suspended for a year, you know?
Yeah.
Or how about like a Wall Street guy who like slays trades and bonds and stocks and kills it on Wall Street, and then he's banned for a year from trading because of some decision he made, you know?
Oh yeah, dude, I can tell you. That's why I want to understand what that must have felt like for you, because a lot of my own personal identity, it's not even wrapped up in that. It is that.
Yeah.
Like when you even tell me things about the gala and so on, I would vomit. Like I would want nothing to do with it, because in my head, the visual that I have of that is a whole bunch. And I know this is wrong, by the way, but like my initial reaction, right, is a whole bunch of people not working. Like that's literally how I see it. It's like I'd rather go and actually do some sort of work than maybe talk to other people. Like I don't know, what do you even talk to people about there? Like what is the thing that you're fearing that you're missing out on? I'm curious.
You know, to be perfectly honest and transparent, it's like looking rich and being rich, I think, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, and again, like, look at me, like white, Christian, heterosexual, like non-handicapped male, owns his own business, has a house, has 2 cars, you know, has a daughter in private school. Why the hell, how on earth would I have like status anxiety ever?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, but it's because like everybody does. Sir Paul McCartney probably has status anxiety once in a while. It's just like this weird, non-physically handicapped, Gunther. Except for my back that I destroyed. I wrecked at the gym.
We'll have to talk about that.
Anyway, check out this list. And this is something that this is something that comes up in my marriage all the time, and which I'm guilty of, but I like to point out in my wife a lot more. When I find a partner, I'll feel better. When I make more money, I will feel better. When the weekend comes, I will feel better. I feel better after drinking coffee. After I read this book, I'll feel better. When I find God, I'll feel better, right? Or like when I get a job, then I can watch TV, right? Or when I send out those resumes, then I can watch TV, right? But what he's proposing, and again, what the Hoffman process version and the old lady friends version is, well-being is the starting point, not the goal. You know?
Right.
And so that's the way in which this book overlaps with The Secret, but again, it's slightly different.
Right.
Right? Because it's not like tonight I'm going to win the lottery, have a date with Scarlett Johansson, and then take a ride in a UFO. It's not that kind of magical thinking, but it's like, so how is it different than that, actually, Wes? Do you want to explain that kind of like manifesting those feelings of being blessed rather than manifesting those like trophies?
Yeah. So I think the first thing that comes to mind is The Secret, the way that I interpret it. Not that there's anything wrong with it. I do think a portion of that for me is useful. I think one is saying these things will appear in my life if I just think that they will appear in my life, versus I am okay with these things. I am okay with or without these things. I am whole regardless of if I have them or I don't. And if I do have them, it's additive, but I'm still independent of those things. That's the way that I would probably think of it.
Can I add something to that?
Oh, totally, yeah.
Action. Action, right? So like body image, right? If you're fat or a woman's fat, maybe we say to ourselves, like, I'm not gonna rest. I'm not gonna be happy until I lose those 20 pounds, right? That for me is a very easy way to think about it. Or I love myself now. You know, I lose 2 pounds, I love myself. I lose 5 pounds, I love myself. I lose 10 pounds, I love myself. And I lose 20 pounds, I love myself, right? Like, so like having that well-being for the whole journey rather than starving yourself of it until the end. Because guess what? The end never comes.
Great way of putting it. Yeah, the
like,
horizon
I'm not going to be
keeps on
happy.
moving.
I'm not going to be happy till I make 250 grand. Guess what? You're never that. Whatever. What if you don't reach it? What if you don't reach 250 grand a year? What if you adjust the number once you get to 249? Right? Like, guaranteed that thinking you are like, you're not starving yourself of the happiness or the reward. You are foreclosing the reward. And so actually, doesn't this kind of tie into like the importance of the reward mechanism in our brain?
Oh yeah, definitely. And I like what Kaizen is saying in the comments. He's saying you're already awesome on the path to becoming more awesome. So I think maybe this is a scaling type of situation where, even if I talk to certain employees, it's like, hey, you're doing great. Here's how you can do even better, rather than saying, here's what you're doing wrong. But first, starting off at a sufficient plus, so A+ level, here's how you add another plus to that list. And I could definitely see the mental modeling and how that would be effective. Totally. And I'm guilty of all this for sure.
Oh yeah, no, same. It's almost as if we're programmed for this negative behavior, and we have to work our way out of it. Right. On our way to being the holistic man.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think, and to your comments on status earlier, I do think a lot of this plays on itself. And Ray, just so you know, I think that everybody's playing a status game, whether or not they even want to. I think that's just biological hard.
According to Jordan Peterson, like chimps do it.
Yep.
Shrimps do it. Like it's part of our survival.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of. So my personal goal is not to remove myself from the hierarchy, because I think that's ultimately where the competing for status comes from. But it's not to remove myself from those hierarchies, but to insert myself in the proper, respectable hierarchies. That's what I think. So I want to play the status game in business. I want to play the status game with family. I want to play the status game in whatever MMA fight, whatever that is, right? Dancing, etc. But still having a healthy perception of it. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I don't know if removing yourself. Yeah. Totally.
It's like, right, because like, I'm not suggesting that we be at peace with poverty and just like kind of meditate all day or something, right? I am proposing we be at. It's this kind. It seems like we have to hold two different ideas in our heads at the same time, right? On the one hand, it's being at peace with who we are and what we have. And on the other hand, striving for more. Yeah. Right. So they might seem contradictory.
Yeah, I think martial arts might encapsulate this. It teaches respect for superiors and inferiors in terms of the skill level, while at the same time you're given a belt, and that belt is indicative of your progress on that hierarchy. So I think if I could think about for myself, I would probably adopt a similar type of mindset. I still want something showing that I have done the work, and to prove it to myself and to show others, like, hey, not to show others, well, number one, yes, I am competitive. It's like, yeah, I'm going to go and try to beat you to advance my own skill, but in a respectful way. And I do think I have to add the respectful thing. Like that's a bit that I've got a bit of like I'm going to beat you and prove it and show why I'm better than you sort of mentality. And that's not right. But I'm just being vulnerable.
Right, and I guess the thing is like my little familiarity I have with martial arts, I think of like discipline being the ultimate virtue, not strength, or not like being a killer, but it's like isn't discipline like self-discipline, right? Because you're not actually learning to hurt people.
No, I think. So I think there's several different things. Number one, but yes, there are some fundamentals of of discipline, staying at peace, not using extra energy beyond what you have to, but also at the same time, like being able to defend yourself and hurt people if they are trying to hurt you.
But you're not exclusively practicing violence.
No,
right?
No, it's a very weird, interesting thing that you are in fact practicing how to inflict some sort of damage to an opponent while at the same time not being violent. Like it's this very weird yin yang relationship. Yeah.
And that's kind of what we're talking about here too, is like feeling blessed, but always going for more, right? It's like it's kind of tangled.
Yeah. I do
right?
think
it requires a bit of study.
I do think there's a challenge because I do think there are certain lines of philosophy that if you keep on going down that road, then you end up living out in the woods somewhere. And I don't know enough about philosophers, but I feel like throughout time, there's been several notable philosophers who have done that. And it feels like I think I could be wrong. It seems like of the philosophers that I'm vaguely thinking of that went out and did that, they borderline, if not, by definition, went crazy because they completely removed themselves from the social group.
Yeah,
and
man
I
is a
do want to be
social
careful
animal.
of that. Yeah.
Aristotle, I think, said that. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think there's a danger of, what do they call it? Nihilism? Is that what it's called? Right? Like, why does...
Like in The Big Lebowski, nihilism.
I've never seen it, but is nihilism like...
Oh, my God. Okay.
Is nihilism essentially like, life doesn't matter, what's the point? Why do anything?
Right.
Is that what nihilism is? Yeah.
Yeah. Right. They're Nazis. They're not Nazis, Donnie. They're nihilists. They believe in nothing. It's a line from The Big Lebowski.
Got it.
Probably
That's
the
perfect.
finest movie. I mean, for me, it ranks just above. Yeah, Casablanca. I mean, it
Really?
is the finest movie. And what's the other cliche best movie of all time? Rosebud. Put in the comments, boys, if you've seen it.
Never seen it.
Else. Anyhow, The Big Lebowski. And I'm sure there's a book about the philosophy of The Big Lebowski. The pursuit of wisdom, all these philosophers go for, right? When you go to when you push that to the furthest degree, you abandon family, you abandon, making money, and you're just out there pursuing wisdom, and we don't want to get that far. We just want to take a few nibbles of the benefits of what they do.
Yeah, and I think this is where philosophical conversations, and I had fun in a weird way. I relate this to Gallus. This is how messed up my brain is. There was a phenomenal book that I read called The Rational Optimist, I believe, and it basically had a section in that book where it talked about people who go down the philosophical road who start to debate capitalism and all of its negatives, while and they're having that debate on their iPhones, sort of a thing. And the author did a great job of saying the entire reason that you have the time and space and the technology to even have that debate is because somewhere in your ancestry, likely one of your prior humans did the legwork to produce so much wealth for you that you actually have that time and space to have these philosophical views and debate them with your friend at the gala. Right. And I do come off a bit negative in that. And I do honestly have negative feelings about it. It's like, hey, right. In my opinion, what this book is helping me bridge together is you can be happy and whole while in pursuit of greater goals. I guess that's the sense I'd probably put in my head.
100. And it is a mindset, right? It's a mindset book. It's not a magical thinking book, right? That's what really connected me. That's what really kind of electrified me from the start with this thing. And it doesn't have to be true, or it doesn't have to be real for me to try it and derive some benefit from it.
Now, do you think, from what I mentioned, do you think all three of those things, because I'm trying to be economical and see if we can summarize what we've read so far. Happy, you have you have the right to be happy and whole in pursuit of your goals. So it's like, if you remove any of those, the goals should not be removed, the pursuit should not be removed, the whole should not be removed, and the happy should not be removed. Is there anything you would add or delete?
Well, I think you could take happy out of it, because what I would want is, I would want it to be as short as possible, with the contradiction, with the seesaw, right? So take the word happy out and say the sentence again.
So you can be whole in pursuit of your goals.
Right. So there's whole, and then there's pursuit of your goals, right? Suggesting you have not achieved them yet, suggesting you're not whole. Right. So I like that even better. Like whole while pursuing the goals.
Got it. And Kaizen, we need the Kaizen monk to add in on here. If there's anything you would add to that sentence. So we're trying to summarize what we've read so far. And yes, I have to deal with that a lot. Of I'm in pursuit because of feeling not complete.
Right.
I think that's what I have to fix. I have got to fix, okay, well, no, I am complete and I'm trying to add more. The vision that I get is almost like a balloon that is filled with water, but still has the capacity to still expand. There's no air in the balloon, but I could still add water to it. Something like that is the visual that I'm getting.
Right. It's still a water balloon.
Yeah.
Right. Even if it's only this big.
Right. Yeah. Got it. Anything else that you've gotten from the book so far?
He talks about ego briefly, and that definitely, my ego was definitely like kind of throbbing when I saw the people in the black tie, right? And I wasn't in black tie, because he calls the ego the world self. So the dictum of the world self is the author's term for ego, is to get. What that is the only thing it is interested in. The ego wants to get, right? To accumulate, right? That's understandable, because it is dependent on energy for survival. The lower your point on the scale, the stronger the need to get is. So when I saw the people with the black tie and I was dressed more casually, I felt like I was missing out on something. Right? I felt like I wasn't able to get something that they were getting. Right.
So how would you summarize that economically?
Well, I mean, I'm too early on my journey to do that, Wes, I think. But like, again, it's a contradiction. Like, I already have everything I need.
Right.
Then why am I at work today? Right. Like, why am I sending out emails trying to sell if I already have everything I need? So I have to come up with a mantra that is like, I already have everything I need. In itself, that is sufficient, right? I already have everything I need. And in fact, but I mean, I'm not encouraging myself to stop working when I say that, right? But I already have everything I need.
Well, and where's the element for other humans? Is there an element of, I have everything I need, and I also want to serve and help other people get what they need?
Yes. So that's, yeah. Like, so do you have everything you need, Wes?
Oh, I mean, intellectually, I want to say yes. Emotionally, I like my real answer probably would be no. Like,
same.
I'm very much an addict of this stuff. Very much an addict.
Same. And so, right, because it's not like you have everything you need, but it's not time yet to declare victory and walk off the field, right?
Yeah.
So it's a dilemma.
Yeah, and I think this is where it's tough. I mean, and Kaizen, like I said, please chime in if you have anything.
We can get him up on the. We can bring him up if he's available.
So Yeah, definitely. There's this element. If I look at let's say the great competitors, at least that I admire, like the Michael Jordans, the Kobe Bryants, the Dan Gables, et cetera, et cetera. It does seem oftentimes that there's a bit of, if not the majority of, unhealthy mindset. What's up, Beast? Is that LA Fitness?
No.
Oh man, 24-hour. I thought I recognized those lockers. Yeah. So yeah, Kaizen, if there's anything that you hear, and because Ray and I are trying to try our best as monkeys here to stumble through this, where are we off, or where should we add to it?
I think you're spot on. Like
Sweet.
A lot of like I've said it before, like when we go over the pitch, I think it's good because you guys will point out stuff that I might have missed.
Yeah.
So the whole the paradox is something that I think
that's the word.
On a lot. Yeah, it's a paradox that you're trying to balance in between. So you want to still take action and still try to like get better. Like Eckhart Tolle, the guy that wrote The Power of Now, he's like real woo-woo dude, was like talking about being happy just sitting on a park bench and living in the park. But it's not for most people, right? Like most people need to have finances, stability, their career taken care of in a way that they're like okay. But you also don't want to like burn yourself out where you're like all you do is work and all you're focused on is your career and working, and you're not like present, and you're not like happy. So it's finding that paradox where you're in the middle of you're already okay being you, you're already okay being yourself, you are enough as you are presently. You don't need to add anything. If anything, you need to take away. You need to take away a lot of the conditioning that's been put upon you as far as like feeling inadequate, or like what mainstream media will tell you to where your self-esteem is constantly like under attack. You have to have this, you have to dress this way, you have to have this car, you have to have this house. And instead be like, I don't need any of that shit. I just need to be me, who I am 100%. I'm okay with being me, but being me is somebody that's progressing. Like happiness is progress. If you're stagnant, that's where depression comes from. People that feel depressed are like not taking action. They're not moving forward and they're feeling trapped. So it's finding that balance between, okay, I'm happy where I am right now, presently. I'm happy with the things that I have in my life. I'm happy with who I am, but also I'm still working to be better. I'm still working to try to improve myself. I'm still working to try to produce more value for those around me. And in doing so, it's only elevating my energy level or level of consciousness or whatever term you want to use.
Right. Makes complete sense.
Yeah. Can I chime in?
Yeah, of course.
So, yeah, I think we have to, and thank you for helping us, Kaizen. That really helped me like distinguish between I'm good enough. So I'm good enough, right? But then who am I? Who's the I in that sentence, right? And the I in that sentence hasn't stopped learning. The I in that sentence hasn't stopped growing, right?
Yeah.
So I'm good enough doesn't mean like all that I've accumulated so far is good enough and I'm going to stop. I'm good enough doesn't mean everything I've learned so far is good enough and I'm going to stop, right? It's like the defining the I. I think that is where the paradox is solved.
That's
right.
You'll get it. It gets into it more. Like I threw it when we were in the chat the other day. I randomly threw on some of the I think it was like chapter 18 on Audible, and once I start getting into like the level 500 and above, they start talking about the source, or where it's like what a lot of like hippies get into when they say like everything is connected, man. We are all one, man. that kind of philosophy where it's like there is no I, there is no other. It's just everything is the infinite. You're not separate from that. You are a part of it. Everything that has energy or life or whatever, you are a part of. So you don't need to feel like you are not enough because you already are everything. And it's kind of like raising your energy or your consciousness or whatever to that understanding level of like, I don't need to add more to me to be awesome. I just need to tap into what is already everywhere and like let it flow through me and let whatever that is, whatever you want to call it, whatever religious belief or whatever philosophy you find yourself like gravitating towards, just that being in the flow state, being the present, being the best you that you can be, and just getting out of your own way.
Dude, Kaizen, what you're bringing up for me is, and then we can wrap this up, and thank you for taking part of your gym time here. I watched a speech from Wayne Dyer years ago where he had this globe on the stage, and he said, this is source energy, and you were born connected to this energy, but what happened, you got blockages and distance from that energy. So it's not about adding things, it's about removing the blockages from that source energy and letting that pass through you so you can share it to other people. And as hippy dippy and as woo as that sounds, you're reminding me of that speech, and it was a game changer for me. So where are those blockages for me? Where am I having, oh, you're not good enough, or you need more, or you need this, rather than letting that source energy come through you, and as weird as this sounds, and then giving that back out in the world, not blocking that from being shared around the world. Yeah.
Yeah. If you want to get like really weird into it, and especially for someone like you that's really logical, if you look up the Akashic record or anything with that, it sounds stupid to bring this up, but they had an Ancient Aliens episode is what like originally I found the information from, and then I started researching it. The Akashic record is like these people in like a lot of like Tibetan or Buddhist philosophy, and then like over time they believe that all of the information that's ever been in the world, ever from the beginning of time to the end of time, is all like in the atmosphere or in whatever, and that people tap into it. So like the examples that they would use is like the pyramids. There's people that submitted patents at the same time to the exact same invention on completely opposite sides of the earth back in like 1800, 1900 and stuff like that, where there's no way they could have contacted each other. But people just like tapped into this information that was like already there. Or if you like, even if you think about like, where do your ideas come from?
Right.
Like, how do you think of something randomly? Is it something that's in your brain already, or is it just kind of like you're tapping into that source energy or whatever? And there's been a lot of videos being put out on like endless motivation from that Owen Cook channel that I was talking about previously. He's talking about like once you start tapping into that source energy, it's like you're energized and you're not running out, where you're not like feeling fatigue or you're not feeling like mental fog or things like that. You're just constantly like building momentum, you're building energy, things that you want to progress in. And it's like once you start hitting that or like tapping into that, it's like a game changer as far as like increasing your level of happiness or just being able to be best you.
Yeah, can I chime in? This brings me. What Kaizen just said brought me back to our. I'll just kind of like give us a summary of where we are so far. The book starts with, we can all agree that the world is made up of physical energy, right? The physical world is made up of energy, microns smashing into each other or whatever, right? But the non-physical world, the world of the ideas that you were just talking about, Kaizen, is made up of energy too, right? And all that, there's all this energy out there in the we call spiritual, like call it whatever you want, like you said, Kaizen, but that is, man has been created with a need for a spiritual life, right? And without that spiritual life, personally, I feel feelings of insufficiency and inadequacy, no matter how much stuff I have, no matter how fit I am, no matter how much hair I have, no matter how many women I conquer, like the feelings of sufficiency and inadequacy. I think the antidote to those feelings is the mindset, or some combination of the spiritual and the mindset. And so I think that's what we're getting into, because like if you look at all the right, because like the higher level of the scale gets all into the spiritual, right? So that's where we're at.
Awesome. Dudes, thank you so much. Kaizen, thanks for not putting off your workout. You're about to go bench press 600 pounds. Ray, thank you for explaining art to me today. And guys, both of you, thank you for explaining this book to me, because I'm having trouble with it, so it's helping me talk through it.
No problem, Wes. You're always teachable, buddy.
Thank you. All right, dudes. Thank you guys very much. Have an awesome weekend. Love you guys. Talk to you soon.
Hell yes.